The massive chamber of the Galactic Council stretched high above Captain James Miller's head, its crystalline walls glowing with soft blue light. He stood straight and proud in his crisp Earth Defense Force uniform, trying not to show how impressed he was by the hundreds of alien delegates floating on their gravity platforms around him. "And these," Miller said, holding up his standard-issue M50 rifle, "are our current military weapons." His voice echoed through the chamber's perfect acoustics. The weapon gleamed under the ethereal lights, its black surface reflecting tiny spots of light. A ripple of something that sounded like laughter moved through the chamber. Miller kept his face neutral, though he felt his neck growing hot. The Earth Defense Force had chosen him for this presentation because of his calm temperament, and he wasn't going to let them down now. A tall, blue-skinned delegate floated forward. "Captain Miller," the alien spoke through the universal translator. "Are you suggesting that your species still uses chemical propulsion to fire metallic projectiles?" "Yes, Ambassador," Miller replied firmly. "Our firearms have proven extremely effective in all our military operations." Another burst of laughter, louder this time. A red-scaled delegate raised all four of their arms for attention. "My dear Captain, surely you jest. Even the youngest spacefaring races abandoned such primitive weapons within their first century of space travel. We use plasma rifles, quantum disruptors, and pure energy weapons." Miller shifted his weight but kept his voice steady. "With all due respect, our ballistic weapons have served us well. They're reliable, effective, and obsolete," called out a voice from the upper tiers. More laughter followed. The council leader, a tall figure wrapped in flowing silver robes, raised a hand for silence. "Captain Miller, while we appreciate Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Council, you must understand our concern. Your species still relies on the crude physics of explosion and projectile. How can you hope to contribute to the defense of the galaxy with such basic technology?" Miller took a deep breath. He had expected this reaction, but it still stung. "Sir, with respect, sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. Our weapons require no power cells, work in any environment, and have proven stopping power against any target we've encountered." "Yes, yes," the council leader waved a dismissive hand. "Against other humans and your planet's wildlife, no doubt. But modern combat involves energy shields, phase shifting, and quantum harmonics. Your bullets would be useless." The chamber had grown quieter now, but Miller could still hear whispered conversations and suppressed laughs. He looked down at his rifle, remembering all the training, all the history behind it. Humanity had spent centuries perfecting these weapons. Could all that development really be worthless among the stars? "We will grant Earth provisional membership," the council leader announced. "But we strongly suggest you begin adopting more advanced weapon systems. The galaxy is not always a safe place, Captain Miller. When real threats emerge, you'll need more than pieces of metal to defend yourselves." Miller nodded stiffly and stepped back from the central platform. As he walked toward the exit, he heard more chuckling, more whispered comments about primitive humans and their quaint weapons. Just before he reached the door, a small gray-skinned alien hurried up to him. The creature's large eyes darted around nervously. "Captain," the alien whispered, "I am from the Council's Intelligence Division. Don't be discouraged. Some of us, well, let's just say that not everyone thinks diversity of approach is a bad thing." Miller smiled slightly. "Thank you. Keep making your weapons, Captain," the alien said quietly. "The galaxy has a way of surprising us all." As Miller walked back to his ship, he thought about the Council's reaction. Maybe they were right. Maybe humanity was hopelessly behind. But something in his gut told him otherwise. Throughout Earth's history, overconfidence had been the downfall of many advanced civilizations. He looked at his rifle one more time before storing it. "They laugh now," he muttered to himself. "Let's hope they never have to find out why we kept these around." Little did the Galactic Council know, their laughter would turn to desperate pleas for help sooner than anyone expected. But that was a story for another day. Lieutenant Anna Reed sat in the dim light of her office at Earth Defense Force headquarters, her eyes fixed on the holographic reports floating before her. For the past 3 months, she had been studying every piece of combat footage from the Galactic Council's military archives. Something wasn't adding up. "Computer, play Battle Sequence 47 again," she commanded. The air lit up with images of alien soldiers firing energy weapons at each other. Beautiful beams of light danced across energy shields, creating spectacular light shows, but doing surprisingly little damage. She rubbed her tired eyes. "Computer, how many actual casualties were recorded in this battle?" 3 injuries, no deaths," the computer responded. "In a battle that lasted 6 hours." Reed leaned back in her chair, thinking. She had watched hundreds of these recordings now, and they all showed the same pattern. Lots of energy weapons, lots of shields, but very few actual casualties. A knock on her door broke her concentration. "Come in." Major Thomas walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You're still at it?" "It's past midnight." "Sir, I think I found something important." Reed accepted the coffee gratefully. "Have you noticed that in all these alien battles, they never actually try to penetrate each other's shields? It's like they're having laser light shows instead of real fights." Thomas pulled up a chair. "Explain." "Look here." Reed pointed to the footage. "Their energy shields are designed to stop energy weapons. But in all the archives, spanning over 300 years, I haven't found a single instance of anyone trying simple kinetic weapons. No rockets, no bullets, not even throwing rocks." "Maybe because those weapons are too primitive to work," Thomas suggested, playing devil's advocate. Reed shook her head. "Or maybe because they never thought to try. Sir, what if their shields are only calibrated for energy weapons because that's all they've used for centuries?" Thomas sat up straighter, his eyes widening. "Are you suggesting their mighty energy shields might be useless against good old-fashioned bullets?" Reed finished. "They've evolved their technology in one direction for so long, they might have a massive blind spot." Just then, Reed's computer beeped with an urgent message. "Warning. Multiple distress signals detected from Outer Colony Sector 7. They both leaned forward as a new hologram appeared. The footage was chaotic, showing strange, dark shapes moving against the stars. Energy weapons flashed uselessly against black, chitinous armor. "What are those things?" Thomas whispered. "The swarm," Reed read from the incoming data. "Some kind of hive mind species. They've already taken 3 outer colonies." She paused, studying the footage. "Sir, look at their armor. The energy weapons are just bouncing off." Thomas was already reaching for his communicator. "Get me General Roberts immediately. Priority 1. While Thomas made his call, Reed continued watching the footage. The alien defenders were falling back everywhere, their advanced weapons proving worthless against this new enemy. She thought about the thousands of obsolete bullet-based weapons still in Earth's arsenals, the factories still producing them despite the Galactic Council's mockery. "Lieutenant," Thomas said after finishing his call, "we're going to test your theory. The General has authorized Operation Lead Rain. We're deploying the company of Marines with traditional weapons to the Proxima Defense Station." Reed nodded, her heart racing. "Sir, should we warn the Council?" Thomas shook his head. "Not yet. Let's prove our theory first. If you're right about their shields, we might be humanity's best hope against these creatures." As they hurried out of the office, Reed glanced one last time at the battle footage. The mighty warships of the Galactic Council were retreating, their energy weapons useless against the advancing swarm. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways," she muttered, patting the standard-issue pistol at her hip. In the coming days, the galaxy would learn an important lesson. Never laugh at another species' weapons until you've seen them in action. And humanity's primitive guns were about to make quite an impression. The swarm thought they were unstoppable. The Galactic Council thought they were doomed. But neither of them had ever faced good old-fashioned human ingenuity, or a rain of armor-piercing bullets. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber was in chaos. Gone were the floating platforms and dignified discussions. Instead, dozens of alien representatives crowded around the central hologram, watching in horror as another world fell to the swarm. Seventh colony has fallen, a blue-skinned delegate shouted. Our best weapons did nothing. The hologram showed massive black ships, their surfaces looking like polished insect shells, descending on a peaceful world. Energy weapons from the planet's defenses splashed harmlessly against their armor. The swarm's ships didn't even slow down. The council leader, no longer wrapped in flowing robes but wearing practical military gear, slammed his fist on the control panel. How are they adapting to every weapon we have? Their armor absorbs energy, another delegate reported, voice trembling. The more we shoot, the stronger they become. They're learning from each attack. Just then, the chamber's doors burst open. Captain James Miller walked in, still wearing his primitive Earth Defense Force uniform, complete with his trusty rifle. This time, no one laughed. Captain Miller, the council leader said, Earth's provisional membership meeting was scheduled for next month. Why are you here? Miller strode to the central platform. We intercepted the distress calls. We have a solution, but you're not going to like it. Solution. A red-scaled delegate scoffed. Your primitive weapons. This is not the time for jokes, human. The hologram shifted to show new footage. The swarm was landing ground forces now. Massive, insect-like creatures with armor as black as space itself. Energy weapons bounced off them like raindrops. Look at that footage, Miller pointed. Their armor adapts to energy weapons. But has anyone tried hitting them with something simpler? The chamber fell silent. You can't be serious. The council leader started, but a new alarm cut him off. Proxima Defense Station under attack. The announcement echoed through the chamber. Everyone turned to the hologram, expecting to see another quick defeat. Instead, they saw something different. Human soldiers, wearing basic combat gear and carrying their primitive weapons, were holding their ground. The sound of gunfire echoed through the transmission. What are those explosions? A delegate asked. Gunfire, Miller said proudly. Just good old-fashioned bullets. And look what they're doing to that supposedly impenetrable armor. The footage showed it clearly. While energy weapons bounced off harmlessly, bullets tore through the swarm creatures. The massive insects screamed, a horrible sound that made several delegates cover their ears as simple lead rounds ripped through their armor. Impossible, someone shouted. No, Miller corrected. Basic physics. Their armor evolved to absorb and adapt to energy weapons, but it can't adapt to physical force. A bullet doesn't care about your fancy energy absorption. It just tears right through. The council leader leaned forward, studying the footage carefully. Human Marines were advancing now, their rifles blazing. The swarm was actually retreating. How many of these weapons do you have? He asked quietly. Enough to arm a battle group, Miller replied. And our factories can make more. Lots more. The council formally requests Earth's assistance, the leader announced. No one objected. No one laughed. Can you teach our troops to use these weapons? Miller nodded. Already prepared training programs, but we'll need your help too. Your ships are faster than ours. We need transport to get our forces where they're needed. Done, the leader said without hesitation. Anything else? Yes, Miller smiled slightly. An apology would be nice for laughing at our primitive weapons. The council leader actually smiled back. Captain Miller, I promise you that no one in this chamber will ever laugh at human weapons again. As if to emphasize his point, the hologram from Proxima Station showed another swarm creature falling to human gunfire. The mighty beast, immune to the most advanced energy weapons in the galaxy, was defeated by technology that humans had used for centuries. Sometimes, Miller thought, watching the council members studying the footage of human weapons with newfound respect, the old ways really are the best ways. The war was far from over, but for the first time since the swarm appeared, There was hope, and it came in the form of humanity's most basic weapons, a simple bullet, propelled by a simple explosion, creating very complicated problems for an enemy that had never faced such primitive technology before. The briefing room aboard the alien flagship Star Weaver was packed with an unusual crowd. Hundreds of alien soldiers sat next to human Marines, all watching as Lieutenant Anna Reed explained their mission. Operation Lead Rain begins in 6 hours, Reed announced, pointing to the holographic map. This will be our first major offensive against the swarm. Thanks to our alien allies' fast ships and our bullets, we finally have a chance to hit them hard. The Star Weaver's captain, a tall blue-skinned alien named First Commander Trell, raised his hand. "Lieutenant, my troops have trained with your weapons for only 2 weeks. Are you certain they're ready?" Reed nodded. "Your people learn fast, Commander. And frankly, we don't have time for more training. The swarm has taken 12 more colonies while we prepared." She changed the hologram to show their target, a massive swarm-high ship hovering over a captured mining colony. The ship looked like a giant black wasp's nest, its surface crawling with smaller swarm creatures. "Standard energy weapons don't work against their armor," she continued, picking up an M50 rifle. "But this beautiful piece of engineering fires 60 armor-piercing rounds per minute. Even their strongest armor can't adapt to good old-fashioned tungsten cores moving at 3,000 feet per second." A ripple of appreciation moved through the alien soldiers. Many of them had their own newly issued rifles. It was strange seeing the advanced aliens carrying primitive human weapons, but recent battles had proven their effectiveness. "Alpha Team, led by Captain Miller, will drop first." Reed pointed to the map. "Beta and Charlie teams will follow, creating a triangle of fire. Delta Team, consisting of our alien allies, will provide backup and learning experience." "What about their acid blood?" an alien soldier asked. "We lost many warriors to it." "Good question." Reed picked up a shell from the table. "These are special rounds designed to freeze on impact. The acid blood won't splash far if it's frozen solid. Your armor should protect you from any spray." The briefing continued for another hour, covering everything from proper rifle maintenance to tactical formations. The aliens paid close attention. There was no more laughing at human military technology. 6 hours later, Operation Lead Rain began. The dropships descended through the planet's atmosphere like falling stars. Inside one of them, Captain Miller checked his rifle one last time. 30 seconds. The pilot called out. The doors opened, revealing the hellish landscape below. The once beautiful mining colony was now covered in black, organic structures built by the swarm. Miller could see the massive Hive ship looming above them. "Remember your training," Miller shouted over the wind. "Short bursts, aim center mass, and keep moving. Go, go, go." They dropped from the ships, their jump jets controlling their descent. The swarm noticed them immediately. Thousands of insect-like creatures poured out of the Hive ship, their chitinous armor gleaming. "Open fire," Miller ordered. The sound of gunfire filled the air, not the high-pitched whine of energy weapons, but the solid thunder of hundreds of rifles firing real bullets. The effect was devastating. The first wave of swarm creatures fell, their supposedly impenetrable armor torn apart by simple kinetic force. Their acid blood froze on contact with the special rounds, creating macabre ice sculptures as they fell. "Keep pushing." Miller saw the alien soldiers of Delta Team moving forward, handling their rifles with surprising skill. "Maintain fire discipline. Watch your ammo." Above them, the Hive ship started to move, trying to escape. But the Star Weaver and other alien ships blocked its path, their newly installed human weapons, massive rotating cannons that fired depleted uranium shells, tearing into its hull. "This is actually working," Miller heard Commander Trell say over the radio, his voice filled with awe. "Their armor, it's failing." The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. By the time the sun set, the Hive ship was a burning wreck, and thousands of swarm creatures lay dead, their mighty armor defeated by primitive human weapons. As Miller watched alien medics and human Marines helping each other clean their rifles after the battle, he couldn't help but smile. The galaxy was learning an important lesson. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best solution. "Not bad for primitive weapons," Commander Trell said, walking up to Miller. "My apologies for ever doubting their effectiveness." Miller nodded, watching as more dropships arrived with fresh troops and ammunition. Operation Lead Rain was just the beginning. The swarm had awakened humanity's warrior spirit, and now they would learn why Earth's primitive weapons had endured for so long. They were about to experience the full fury of human ingenuity, one bullet at a time. The Earth Defense Force's main weapons factory in Detroit hummed with activity. Where once it had produced tanks and aircraft, it now manufactured weapons for dozens of alien species. Lieutenant Anna Reed walked through the production line with First Commander Trell, watching robots assemble rifles designed for all sorts of alien hands. "Fascinating," Trell said, picking up a newly made rifle with his four-fingered hand. "You modified the trigger mechanism for my people's grip in just 2 weeks." "Simple engineering," Reed replied, showing him the blueprints on her tablet. "We kept the basic mechanics of the M50 rifle, but adjusted the stock and trigger for different alien body types. The bullets remain the same. They kill swarm creatures just as effectively no matter who fires them." Above them, massive screens showed battle footage from across the galaxy. Human weapons were turning the tide of war. The swarm, which had seemed unstoppable against energy weapons, was now retreating from system after system. 6 more production facilities have opened across Earth," Reed continued. "We're making enough weapons and ammunition to supply 30 alien armies." Their tour was interrupted by an urgent message. "Lieutenant Reed, Commander Trell, please report to Testing Range 7 immediately." They hurried to the underground range, where Captain Miller waited with a group of alien weapons designers. On the firing line sat something new, a massive cannon mounted on a heavy stand. "Is that what I think it is?" Trell asked, his eyes widening. Miller nodded. "The first human-alien joint weapons project. We call it the Heavy Planetary Defense Gun. It combines your people's anti-gravity technology with our simple ballistic principles." "Show me," Trell said eagerly. Miller pressed a button. Downrange, a thick plate of swarm armor salvaged from a recent battle hung suspended. The cannon hummed as alien technology neutralized its massive weight, allowing it to track smoothly. "Fire in 3, 2, 1. The cannon roared. A depleted uranium shell the size of a human arm hit the swarm armor at hypersonic speed. The armor, which had shrugged off the most powerful energy weapons in the galaxy, shattered like glass. "By the stars," Trell whispered. "The kinetic force. 15,000 rounds per minute," Miller said proudly. "Your anti-gravity tech lets us handle the recoil. One of these mounted on each of your capital ships. The swarm won't stand a chance." Reed finished. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. A hologram appeared showing a massive space battle near Jupiter. A swarm fleet had attacked the human colony there, clearly hoping to stop weapon production. But this time, the defending fleet was ready. The Human-Alien Joint Defense Force met the swarm head-on. Modified alien ships bristled with rotating gun turrets. The space around Jupiter lit up with tracer fire instead of energy beams. Everyone in the testing range watched as the new weapons proved their worth. Swarm ships that had once seemed invincible were torn apart by storms of bullets and shells. Their adaptive armor, so effective against energy weapons, provided no protection against simple kinetic force. "Beautiful," an alien weapons designer said, watching the battle. "Simply beautiful." Miller smiled. "Sometimes the old ways really are the best ways." Speaking of old ways, Reed added, "Wait until you see what we're planning next. Ever heard of something called a railgun?" Their discussion was interrupted by cheering from the factory floor above. The Jupiter Defense Force had won. Another victory for the combination of human weapons and alien technology. "To think," Trell said, shaking his head, We once laughed at your weapons. Now they're saving the galaxy. Don't feel bad. Miller patted the alien's shoulder. You've taught us plenty too. Those anti-gravity units are revolutionizing our weapon designs. Together, we're stronger than either of us alone. As if to emphasize his point, another test firing of the heavy planetary defense gun shook the range. This time, the swarm armor didn't just break, it vaporized. Reed watched the aliens taking notes, discussing modifications, suggesting improvements. The galaxy was changing. The swarm had fought to conquer everything, but instead, they had united humanity and alien kind in ways no one had imagined. And it all started because some primitive weapons proved that sometimes the simplest solution was the deadliest solution. Next up, Miller announced, we show you how to make something called a shotgun. Trust me, the swarm is really going to hate this one. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, victory seemed possible. Humanity's obsolete weapons were writing a new chapter in galactic history, one bullet at a time. The bridge of the Earth-designed warship Thunderchild was silent except for the soft beeping of instruments. Captain Miller stood at the command station, watching the tactical display where thousands of green dots represented the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. All ships report ready, Lieutenant Reed announced from her station. Human and alien crews standing by. Miller nodded, looking at the massive railguns mounted on their ship. Each one was longer than a football field, a perfect blend of human ballistic knowledge and alien technology. The guns were loaded with special shells designed to tear through swarm motherships. First Commander Trell, now Miller's second-in-command, checked the final readings. The swarm's main fleet is gathering around their home system. They know we're coming. Let them wait, Miller said. Lieutenant Reed, signal all ships. Operation Hammerfall is go. The combined fleet jumped into hyperspace, using alien drive technology to cross vast distances. When they emerged, the sight was breathtaking. Hundreds of swarm motherships filled the space around a dark, heavily fortified planet. They've never gathered their forces like this before, Trell observed. They're scared. They should be, Reed replied. Battle formations. The fleet spread out in the pattern they'd practiced. Alien ships equipped with human weapons took the front lines. Behind them, larger vessels carrying the massive railguns moved into position. Earth ships loaded with traditional missiles and bullets formed the third wave. The swarm is responding, Trell reported. They're launching fighters. Millions of smaller swarm ships poured out of the motherships, their black armor gleaming in the starlight. In previous battles, such a sight would have meant certain defeat, but not today. All ships, Miller commanded, execute battle plan Thunder. The front line opened fire first. Thousands of gun turrets mounted on alien ships spewed streams of armor-piercing rounds. The space between the fleets filled with tracers, looking like rivers of fire flowing through the void. Swarm fighters, designed to absorb and adapt to energy weapons, fell by the hundreds. Their legendary armor proved useless against the simple physics of high-velocity bullets. Second wave. Prepare main guns, Miller ordered. The massive railguns hummed to life. Each one was powered by alien energy cores, capable of launching shells at speeds that would make Earth's old naval guns look like toys. Target the motherships, Miller said. Fire when ready. The Thunderchild shuddered as its railguns fired. Enormous shells, each one carrying enough kinetic energy to split a mountain, streaked across space. They hit the first mothership dead center. The result was spectacular. The mothership, large enough to cover a small continent, split in half. Its adaptive armor, which had defeated every energy weapon in the galaxy, couldn't handle the raw physical force of the impact. Direct hit, Reed shouted. Their armor is failing. More railguns fired. More motherships fell. The swarm's fighters became disorganized, their hive-mind connection disrupted by the destruction of their major ships. Third wave, Miller commanded, clean up the fighters. All railgun ships concentrate fire on their planetary defenses. The battle raged for hours. Space filled with debris as more swarm ships fell. Their black armor, once thought invincible, proved no match for humanity's primitive weapons enhanced by alien technology. They're retreating, Trell announced. The remaining motherships are trying to jump out of the system. Not this time, Miller said grimly. Launch the new missiles. From the Earth ships came a new weapon, missiles equipped with both human explosives and alien dry systems. They caught the fleeing motherships, their warheads ignoring energy shields to deliver their devastating payloads. Final mothership destroyed. Reed reported. The planet's defenses are down. Ground forces report they're ready for landing. Miller looked at the tactical display, now mostly clear of enemy ships. The mighty swarm, which had terrorized the galaxy for months, had been broken in a single day, all because they never imagined that primitive human weapons could hurt them. Send word to Earth and the Council, he ordered. The swarm's main fleet is destroyed. We've won this battle. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Human and alien crew members celebrated together, their combined strength having achieved what neither could have done alone. To think, Trell said quietly to Miller, all this began because we laughed at your weapons. Miller smiled, watching as landing ships headed toward the swarm's homeworld. Sometimes the best lessons come from underestimating simple things. The war's final battle was about to begin on the planet below, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity's obsolete weapons had changed the galaxy forever. 1 year after the fall of the swarm, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Gone were the floating platforms and ceremonial robes. Instead, the alien delegates sat at simple chairs behind sturdy tables. Most notably, each delegate now wore a standard-issue sidearm. Human-designed pistols modify for their various anatomies. Captain Miller, now Admiral Miller, stood at the central podium. Behind him, a massive display showed weapons production statistics from Earth's factories, which were still running at full capacity. The last swarm resistance pocket was eliminated yesterday, Miller reported. The galaxy is officially secure. The council leader, wearing a practical Earth Defense Force jacket over his ceremonial garments, stood up. Thanks to humanity's weapons and leadership, we've achieved what seemed impossible. The Council hereby promotes Earth from provisional to full membership, with special status as the galaxy's primary defense technology provider. Applause filled the chamber. Lieutenant Reed, standing beside Miller, smiled as she remembered how this same chamber had once echoed with laughter at their primitive weapons. Furthermore, the Council leader continued, we've approved funding for the new Galactic Defense Academy on Earth. All member species will send their military personnel to train in combined arms warfare, including both energy and kinetic weapons. First Commander Trell, now the head of the Joint Weapons Development Program, stepped forward. The first class of alien cadets is already learning at the Academy. Would any council members like to see their progress? The chamber emptied as the delegates followed Trell to Earth's newest military facility. The Galactic Defense Academy sprawled across what used to be the Nevada desert, its training grounds filled with both human and alien students. On the main firing range, alien soldiers practiced with various human weapons. A 4-armed alien demonstrated perfect form with a modified shotgun. Nearby, a tall, blue-skinned cadet field-stripped and reassembled an M50 rifle while blindfolded. Impressive, one delegate said, watching the training. They've mastered these weapons so quickly. Simple tools are often the easiest to master, Reed replied. That's something we learned from our history. The best weapons are the ones any soldier can use and maintain in the field. The tour continued to the vehicle bay, where human tanks rolled alongside alien hover vehicles, each equipped with a mix of traditional guns and energy weapons. In the sky above, fighter craft practiced formation flying, their weapons combining the best of both worlds' technology. And here, Miller said, leading them to a special sealed room, is our newest project. Inside, weapons engineers from a dozen species worked together on what looked like a simple rifle. but its internal mechanisms combined human ballistic principles with advanced alien technology. The M60 hybrid, Miller explained. It can switch between bullets for armored targets and energy beams for shield-equipped enemies, the best of both worlds. The council leader picked up the prototype carefully. From laughing at your weapons to copying them, the galaxy has changed much in 1 year. We've all changed, Miller corrected. Humans have learned plenty from alien technology too. Our ships are faster, our shields are stronger, and our targeting systems are more accurate. But we'll never forget the basics that saved us all. Later that evening, at a celebration in the Academy's main hall, humans and aliens mingled freely. Stories were shared, drinks were exchanged, and plans were made for future cooperation. Reed found Miller standing by a window, watching the sunset over the training grounds, thinking deep thoughts. "Admiral, just remembering that first day in the council chamber," he replied, "when they all laughed at our primitive guns. Now look at them." Through the window, they could see alien cadets practicing close-quarters combat with human instructors. On the walls hung pictures of the victory over the swarm, showing human and alien forces fighting side by side. "The galaxy learned an important lesson," Reed said. "Never judge a species by their technology level. Judge them by their ingenuity. And never laugh at a weapon until you've seen it in action," Miller added with a smile. As night fell over the Academy, the sounds of training continued. The galaxy was at peace, but it would stay ready. Humans and aliens working together, combining ancient principles with advanced technology, creating something stronger than either civilization could have managed alone. And in weapons lockers across the galaxy, beside the energy rifles and plasma cannons, human-designed guns stood ready. Simple, reliable, and respected. No one was laughing anymore. The age of cooperation had begun, built on the foundation of humanity's primitive ingenuity and the galaxy's hard-learned respect for the basics of warfare.